Marlene is the Research and Documentation Specialist within the ICH Secretariat unit of the Ministry of Creative Economy, and she is here to enlighten us on the significance of cultural diversity and so much more. Marlene, welcome back to GMSKN.
Thank you.
Happy to have you back. So Marlene, could you share with us what's the meaning of intercultural dialogue?
Well, I think it's obvious that as a nation, we have multiculturalism. There's a lot of different nationalities that reside within St. Kitts and Nevis and wider throughout the Caribbean and also throughout the diaspora. So when you're speaking about intercultural dialogue, I think you have to acknowledge and respect from where someone has come, geographically. Through history, we migrated. A lot of our people were brought to the Caribbean from the continent of Africa due to colonization, and also dispersed throughout the North Americas. So there's been a mixing of cultures, mixing of languages, and I think you might agree that if you look at the Caribbean, and even here in St. Kitts and Nevis, there are certain different dialects. But when you travel from island to island, or even throughout the diaspora, you hear something that sounds familiar, to where you grew up, to where you've come from. So because there's been a mixing of nations, a mixing of cultures, it makes it a little bit more challenging, but we have to find a way to speak to each other, to communicate, even if there's a barrier of language. And that helps to resolve issues and bring forth peace. Because if we can't communicate with each other, if we don't understand what the practices of someone else's culture is, how can we resolve issues of differences? So that's what I feel intercultural dialogue deals with.
Cultural diversity is embracing cultural diversity and building bridges for a harmonious world. You would say that this theme is quite fitting.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's something that even if they didn't change, UNESCO, it's UNESCO's platform, but even if they didn't change the theme, it's something that we have to be working at continuously every day in our lives, It's not, sometimes we don't understand different cultures, and I think it's part of the state's obligation to teach it through education. If you don't get the teaching from your family members in terms of traditions are passed down through, to your grandparents, to your mother, to your father, and so on and so forth. When you have children, the hope is that you pass on the tradition to your children. However, if it's not being studied in school in terms of geography and history, there's a big gap. There's a big gap in understanding our purpose, why we're here, what are some of the traditions that we had, what is our foundation, and you can't measure the change of culture unless you know the foundation, right? So if we didn't know where we came from, if we didn't know our history, and this goes to anybody and anyone coming from a different nationality, if you don't know the origins of your history, you're going to be lost, you're going to be confused. And you're not going to be able to, I think, feel a genuine purpose in your life and feel like you belong or where you belong. So it's very, very important for us to make sure that we're passing on the right traditions, that we know what our traditions are, so that when we travel, when we mix with other nations, we can actually share some of the values that we have within our communities, and hopefully they will be respected.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
Sorry. Speaking in particular to St. Kitts and Nevis, because many times just being in around other persons in St. Kitts, you'll often hear persons say this quote-unquote phrase, "Oh, you bang water from here." I mean, like, how does one embrace this kind of cultural change when you say to someone who's not from here, "Oh, you bang water from here"? And it's a phenomenon right here in St. Kitts. I've heard the phrase many times.
That's the first time I've heard the phrase. I've lived here for 23 years. I've never heard that. No.
I heard it a lot.
Yeah.
All the time.
Oh, okay. Definition?
Basically, thing you came in about you, paddling all the way here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I can't speak to the term. Mind you, I don't know every local saying that's been said. But in terms of what you're asking, I mean, we are a people who migrate, right? And again, it goes back to our origins. If you don't understand where we've come from, we've actually migrated from the continent of Africa, right? And if you don't understand that, you've missed the teaching somewhere, whether it be in school or by your parents, or even done your own research. So you can't change the origins of where you've come from. And I think that sometimes we tend to run from that. Young people, thinking they might not have any connection to Africa because they were born in the Caribbean. That's a little bit blind and naive without doing your research and understanding your history. So I think everyone has a right to choose where they want to live, but you can't change who you are. You can't change your makeup. I can't change my skin color. By the melanin in my skin, I know where my origins are. You understand? So there's nothing wrong with being proud of where you come from, but we also have to acknowledge that there's a lot of diverse cultures, and as an individual, you might not agree with certain practices from other cultures. However, if we're supposed to coexist together and find a way to have peace amongst one another, we have to be able to understand and respect the practices of someone else within reason, as long as they're not harming another human being. There are a lot of cultures that are very different. From the beginning of time, our foundation is scriptural. We're not supposed to be consuming blood. There are some cultures in Africa that consume blood. So, you have to use your moral compass. You have to use your discernment. And while you might not consume it, that is something that tribe has grown up as their tradition. To challenge and question morality of it and whether it should be done or not. Obviously, you have to do more research and understand where that began in a culture. But like I said, as long as people are not harming other people, I think we should be able to tolerate differences, we have to learn to live together peacefully.
Indeed. And before we go to the break, I would like to know your thoughts on integrating culture into the frameworks of sustainable development.
Well, it's something that we can't avoid. There's a high number of us in society who lean towards cultural practices in terms of livelihood. Sometimes, we call it the intangible cultural heritage because they're different things that are practiced, methods of cooking, methods of preparing a food, the types of food that you eat, for example. And there are people who have amazing skills doing that. We have people that have been gifted with voice and they sing. And instead of a hobby, this is something they would like to sing every day of their life and be able, to live. We have to find a way to earn money so that we can live and put a roof over our head, have food to eat. But why can't we enjoy what we are doing? We have people who have skills doing hair, doing makeup. We have people that have skills playing music, writing music. We have people who have skills planting, agriculture, dealing with the universe and natural properties of herbs for medicinal purposes and things of that nature. So why is it that we cannot do these things as a livelihood? There's still a challenge with us respecting people in the cultural industries who are trying to practice their trade. If they're not a banker, a lawyer, a surgeon, etc., where there's nothing wrong with those careers, we need those careers as well. But there's a lot of people who have natural talents and make products and make crafts and things of that nature, and they want to earn from their talents, and we need to embrace that more. And as an institution, I work within the creative economy of the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. A lot of initiatives are being done to understand what the needs are of artists, of creatives, and how we can help to support, and what policies need to be created to help improve relations and earning your livelihood as a means of sustainability, as sustaining yourself, boosting the economy, things like that.
Why is it we have so many different cultures living here in St. Kitts that I have not seen a big food fair? I'm a foodie, so I'm going to ask on behalf of all the foodies. Why have we not had a cultural food fair where we can maybe come together, you know, share in the food and get to understand each other a bit more?
Well, I can't answer that question. However, I do know that there are pockets of food activity happening. I know that tourism has a restaurant week, and or promotes a restaurant week, and they pick a local vegetable that they encourage the restaurateurs to include on their menu, and also not just restaurants, but small vendors, food vendors that exist throughout the nation, as an opportunity to remind us, go and, you know, check out the foods, check out these different restaurants and the cultural cuisine that's being offered. Nevis has a mango festival, which is coming up soon. So again, another opportunity for chefs, cooks, vendors to promote something using mango, because there's so many different varieties of mango that exist nationally. So I wouldn't say, I haven't seen, you know, an annual food fair, but there are lots of different opportunities and different events that happen throughout the year where food is incorporated. Currently, we're celebrating African Liberation Week of activities. And I don't know if you knew that on Friday, our people, vendors, cooks, chefs were in the square promoting African food. So there was food from Nigeria, from Ghana, and Tanzania, right? So there's lots of opportunities to try, you know, within the villages. There's no specific time of year that it happens collectively. And I think it would be very big because like you said, there's a lot of cultures that reside in St. Kitts and Nevis. And I'm a foodie as well, you know, not good for our waistline, but I love a good food, you know? So, but it would be lovely to be able to, you know, create a national food day where we do have all the different cultures that exist in St. Kitts and Nevis and be able to sample their foods. So good suggestion.
If they're listening. Just gave you an idea.
As during your tenure working as a documentation and research specialist, what have you gathered or what have you learned so far about the cultural diversity in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis?
That there has to be more education about the culture of people that live in St. Kitts and the history behind it. Because as I mentioned before, migration, you know, our parents, some of our parents migrated to different parts of the world. Different families migrated to come here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So we need to learn that in school. We need to learn that amongst each other. You know, we have there's language differences. You know, why is it that we don't try and understand each other's language and we're living in such close proximity, you know? So I think that there needs to be more education about the history of migration and how these different cultures came to reside in St. Kitts and Nevis so that we could understand each other better. You know, sometimes we keep to ourselves, you know, and different ethnicities will keep to themselves, sometimes because of language, right? But I think it's a golden opportunity for us to try and learn and understand through food, through, you know, you know, we live amongst each other, we're each other's neighbors, try and understand a little something about your neighbor's culture, you know, the food that they eat, the language they speak, how they came to St. Kitts and Nevis, you know, and be more embracing, because the same way how we hop on a plane, travel somewhere, maybe not on vacation, but with the desire to live, we would want to be accepted. As long as the laws of the land are being respected, you know, why would you want to reject someone? I wouldn't want to feel rejected, you know, because I think people have a lot to contribute to a society that they live in. If they're not, well, obviously there's laws there to deal with the unruly people, but generally speaking, people migrate for better life, better opportunity, to live safely, peacefully, away from war, away from things that would harm. So yeah, it's an opportunity for us to learn from each other, about each other. We don't celebrate diversity on a day. That's UNESCO. UNESCO has chosen the day to celebrate it, but every day we're living cultural diversity and dealing with life. So the Department of Creative Economy, we have been doing consultations with the public to find out what is it that you need, what kind of support do you want in terms of the department, how can we help you, to develop further, what are your challenges. And so through these consultations, we've learned that there's a disparity in terms of the equal rights of artists. Sometimes we have challenges with freedom of speech. Sometimes we have things like more opportunities in terms of artists or creatives being able to share their products and services, not just nationally, but regionally and internationally. How do they get into those markets? It's challenging trying to get into North American, European markets. How can we create grant opportunities, not just for entrepreneurs, but people that are running a small business? It's very expensive to export your products from stkittsnevis, in just doing your daily business. Why are the costs so expensive for somebody to ship something out? Or what kind of concessions can be offered for creators and producers who need to import raw materials and products? These are things that can be done to help the creative to be able to ply their trade and be more sustainable. Because if you don't help the artists and creatives, then what's going to happen to society? You're going to have a high rate of unemployment if you don't acknowledge these their contribution to GDP. These are things that we have to look at, and respecting the rights of artists and the things that they create, intellectual property, because that's what they're making money off of, their idea, their creation, and they manifest it in terms of a product or a service. So at what point are we going to start engaging these services? There's also a challenge. A part of what the department is doing is looking at ways to educate the small business owner on how to market their services and products outside of the Federation, proper packaging, proper way of running business, invoices, registering your business, and networking, things like this. Sometimes a hobby becomes a career, becomes a livelihood, but the person never got training on how to do the marketing, how to manage the business. So again, these are ways that the department will partner with different, private sector and public sector departments, business and things like that, to help bring workshops to help educate small business owners so they can improve.
I still didn't think that, and because it comes with culture, I still didn't think that they were on there, but I get the full gist of it now. Wow.
I mean, the creative economy is huge. Yeah. It's huge. It's not just, we don't want people to see the creators just as an entertainment, the entertainers is a product of having that a hold or being an expert in that creative art form. But we want people to think about spending their money locally. Spend your money with people who are making products locally. Help to build up the national economy, right? Because a lot of money goes outside, of the country. If we patronize the small businessman that's here and we help to build them up, their business grows, and then they can employ somebody else. So we help to eradicate poverty. You understand? So these are sort of the things that we have to look at, and we have to, as a department, have to look at the challenges in policy, the challenges in the infrastructure, customs, exporting goods, standards, practices, and try and find a way to help to improve the livelihoods of these individuals. So it's a lot of different things that we have to look at. It's a lot of different departments that we have to consult with, and a lot of support that we need. Also private sector in terms of, making it, employing some of these individuals, purchasing goods and services from them, for your own companies. That can make a huge difference in someone's business.
Speaking about the creatives, for those persons who are watching and are interested and intrigued by what you're discussing with us, how can they get in touch with the Ministry of Work on the creative economy?
Creative economy. Well, currently we're located in the Palms, off the Circus in the Palms building, and you'll see a big sign there. So we'll be easy to find. Just come into the office and you can speak to one of the specialists there. We have drumming, music, and dance specialists, and we've just added, some new employees. We'll be focusing on the arts. We also deal with intangible cultural heritage. So you can come to the office. We're there every day, Monday through Friday, 8 till 4. Or you can call, I think it's 467-1415 or 467-1396. I'm kind of drawing a bit blank on all the numbers, but you'll find us. Come in and let us know what area you're interested in, what your needs are, and we can put you in the right direction if it's not something that we can assist you with.
And just before we head into the break, any final words for the people in the Federation of Stkitts and Nevis?
I want everyone to look at your cultural heritage. Do your own family research. Teach your children about your origins. And if you don't know, start studying it now. Where did your mother, your father come from? Things that are interesting is, it's always interesting to learn how your grandparents grew up, what they grew up with. Very little, a lot, what were some of their jobs that they had. Sometimes that informs us of why we are the way we are today. Sometimes we inherit some of the characteristics of our forefathers. And I think it adds value to encourage that in your children, to give them an identity so they have a grounding of where they come from and know that they belong and be proud of who they are, right? Because when you go out there in the world and you meet a lot of different cultures, different types of people, sometimes they might not respect your heritage. But if you know where you come from, who you are, and you feel proud of that, then you'll know best how to deal with those kinds of negative things that might come. And some people embrace it. Some people love meeting different cultures and don't feel threatened by them. And so I just encourage everyone to do your own family research, start traditions within your family, and be proud of who you are.